Hey everybody, this is Perch. MCU, people's minds are on the MCU net right now with Doctor Strange. As I said, I took the family to watch Doctor Strange. We watched it. I wasn't a big fan of it. No, this isn't a review, but I'll do one. It was a messy movie, which was a shame of all this. And I am surprised. So I made a prediction a while back that the America Chavez you would get would not be the America Chavez that was in the comic books. And by and large, I was correct about that. The America Chavez in the movie was certainly more friendly, more humble, realized that, she needed to train up in Kunlun or whatever, where the Doctor Strange mystical mountain fortress place. Um, she was, she wasn't constantly spouting off, bizarre, unintelligible Spanish that doesn't actually make sense to a Spanish user. It was by and large a new version of the character. They also did not comment on her being lesbian. They didn't comment on her being anything, straight or lesbian, which is another one of my predictions. However, one thing that they did do is they did keep the origin of basically America Chavez getting scared and accidentally opening a portal and her mom's falling through it, which it came off as stupid in the movie as it did. In weird ways, it came off stupider in the movie than the comic because the comic, I don't know, in the movie it looked cheesy as hell. Like this, I don't know. She's using the equivalent of space member berries to get kind of some flashback, and it just looked cheesy. It looked cheesy as all get out, and but it was very interesting because there's this brief scene where she does this and she talks about her mom's, and then you'll see her. The later line is like you'll see your family again. So it was designed. I mean, Disney's very clever. The entire scene was designed for Disney to be able to easily extract and cut that scene out from China and other places. Like they could just snip and it'd be fine. It was that was very funny that they did that. Anyway, here's a question about the MCU. It says, "Hey Perch, I don't know if you're the kind of person who dodges as much MCU discussion as possible. Not really. But which characters' teams, in your opinion, should be kept away from being used in their next phase? For me, I dread the prospect of the Squadron Supreme being put in a possible movie streaming show because it will cause casual fans and normies to gloat and amplify their DC bad mantra. I'm not sure if that sounded like a gatekeeper of that question. No, not at all. I look forward to hearing what you think of one of your videos. Yeah, I think the Squadron Supreme is a bad one. I would be surprised if they do much with the Squadron Supreme. Now, what I do think is going to happen is that we're going to get more about, because they did in Doctor Strange 2, we're going to get more about this incursion business. And there's zero doubt in my mind that we're going to get like a little, 3-minute clip of another Earth somewhere. It's like the Earth of 1,462. And in that, they're going to, there's going to be I just thought of something else to mention here in a second. They're going to have the Squadron Supreme standing around there. And they'll be like, what's happening? But we're not going to see their powers. There's not going to be any worry that, Warner's lawyers are going to call, because if you did full on Squadron Supreme in the movies or the show, then Warner's to be like, all right, we ignored it with comic books, but this is some bullshit over here, and then you would get some lawsuits. That's why, I mean, even The Boys has is the 7 is way less Justice League than what you have in the comics, and there's a reason for that. But anyway, I think that's as much as we're going to get with the Squadron Supreme. There'll be some little quick clip before they all get wiped out. They'll be like, oh no, what is happening? I don't know. Reality's folding in on itself. Oh my goodness, it's terrible. And then the screen will go white, and they're like, meanwhile, in the 616, Doctor Strange is drinking coffee, and then that's how the scene will go. I don't want to. So characters, I don't. There's a lot of characters, honestly, that I don't really want to see in the MCU. Feels like the next phase is going to be Fantastic Four and X-Men. I think that's what we're getting for the next couple phases. I know people are all hot and bothered about Secret Wars coming, but my feeling is we're going to get AVX sooner. I think they're going to introduce the X-Men, and we're going to build up to a Avengers versus X-Men kind of thing. But it'll be the weird Avengers. It's like we've got Ant-Man and the Wasp will be there, and maybe the young Hawkeye, maybe old Hawkeye. I don't know, like who's left? Is Chris Hemsworth still going to do more? I don't know. I think what I hear that the Hulk is wanting to be out at this point. So I don't know. I mean, who's in there? Is it going to be War Machine and the insect heroes against the X-Men? Is that who are we getting? Anyway, that's where I think they're going. I don't really. Let's see. I'm not fond of. I'm not looking forward to seeing Galactus. Just in the sense of I don't know. The Eternals had the big Celestials, and it looked pretty goofy and weird, and I'm not necessarily looking forward to that. I don't want to see Tigra in the MCU again, unless I'll go back to Riley Reid. Fan cast Riley Reid as Tigra and put her in there. Why not? People are going to think I'm overdoing it a little bit with O'Reilly. Right now, there's some people like, I know a Riley. Isn't there a Riley that draws Harley Quinn? It's like, no, that's Riley Rossmo. Very different. Don't go on to Google and check. You will be surprised by what you find. Other characters. I mean, almost anything from the last 5 years. Like God help us all if they decide to implement the Krakoa. Like this entire era of X-Men. I remember when Hickman was coming on, one of the things that was said, and one of the big speculations is that Disney and Feige, who liked kind of Hickman's way of plotting out the comics for the Fantastic Four and the Avengers, there was at least speculation that he was going out to the X-Men to help set it up for what a movie adaptation could look like. And the reality is, like, you can use Orcus, evil government kind of research facility of people trying to kill mutants. You could certainly do that, but oh my God, don't do anything else. Please, no. Let's see. I need to take this question more seriously. What are other characters and things I would not want to see? I don't. To me, I'd like the MCU to start going deep rather than going wide. So rather than like figure out like, okay, how do we get how do we get Damian Hellstorm in this thing? Start doing more with Ghost Rider, or doing more with I was not a fan of Moon Knight. I didn't I as a show I didn't like it. I didn't like what they did with his powers and his costume, and just the way, the more mystical aspect of it. I don't know. I was not. I thought that was a dog of a show personally. Nothing against the actor. I think he did a hero's job with what he was handed to work with. But I no thanks. I mean, there's too many. Setting up the Mark Spector Stephen Grant relationship, and Stephen Grant being kind of the comic relief and all that stuff. It's like, ugh. I feel like we're getting to I could just see at some point that we're going to have Ant-Man meet the Moon Knight, and Moon Knight's going to keep switching costumes between the suit and the more armor. And it's like, no, thank you. It's like, so you're a part of an Egyptian god. I can see the jokes and the quips coming, and I want to blow my brains out. I do not want to see any of that. But I don't know. Let's see. I'm sure there's some other stuff out there. Even though I do think the MCU is running forward with the X-Men, I don't know. I kind of think that one's fine, just left the way it is. I don't necessarily want them to get into the X-Men. Now they're clearly going to, because they got the rights and everything else. But I would rather see them go, hey, let's actually do a full-length Luke Cage movie, or maybe a recast Iron Fist. But let's do more with Daredevil. Let's do more with the Punisher. Let's do like, they've got some characters that got their one Netflix show. Let's go ahead and see that dynamic play out. Maybe you put Luke Cage and Iron Fist wasn't that bad. In hindsight, if that's the worst Marvel had brought us, that would be a great thing. But it wasn't good. Don't get me wrong. But there's been more clunkers than just Iron Fist. But if you took like Jessica Jones and Iron Fist and Daredevil and the Punisher, and you wove them into some stories with, figure out a way to bring Black Widow back to life, but Scarlett Johansson's unlikely to do that. But just the Falcon, putting the Punisher, the Netflix Punisher, in a show with Sam as Cap, that winds up being pretty interesting. Let's see what that dynamic looks like. I would like to see that rather than introduce any new characters. I'd like to see them mine the characters they have a little bit more. But it does seem like we're in this rush to just vomit out new things. I'm more or less looking forward to She-Hulk, although I feel like that one could go south relatively quickly. Um, I don't know. I should have a better answer to this, but that's what I've got right there. I'm with you on Squadron Supreme. I think there's a handful of heroes and villains. I'd like to see them build up some good villains and some good threats. And the one thing I'll say about the current phase that does seem uh, somewhat positive to me is that you do have the threat of the Celestials. You have the threat of whatever the incursions and all that stuff going on. Is Doctor Strange going evil? What's happening there? You have the kind of some of the threat of Baron Zemo. He's out there somewhere. In theory, he can construct some Masters of Evil kind of thing. You also you have a couple villains. You have Kang hanging out there, so you have a couple different threats. You were not building up to Thanos and Loki for everything and killing off all the other villains. So that is a positive development for the MCU. I still think there's a couple other characters I'd love to see them get on the board and do some things with, and build up some good villain characters so we can get some good threats going. Anyway, good question. Maybe some people in the comments will have better answers than me. I think that's quite likely. And thanks for listening.